Welcome to another episode of Knowledge is Power, where we have different experts from different fields to share with you their expertise and to help us to overcome life challenges. One of the challenges that we will go through is about our relationship with food. I'm definitely one person that will constantly have a bad relationship with food and not understanding why do I crave for certain stuff at certain time. So if emotional eating is something that has been troubling you, today we have doctor here to actually help us to work out what do we need to get better. So today my guest speaker is Dr. Orlena. Thank you, Orlena, for coming to our platform today.
Perfect. Thank you, Martha. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure and an absolute honor. And today we're really going to focus on emotional eating. So just to sort of precede it, you did talk a little bit about cravings, and we are going to mention cravings. Now, cravings can obviously be slightly more complicated because it does depend why you're craving stuff. So we're going to look at the general cravings, which are normally for white refined carbohydrates, and we'll dive into those too. So if I may, I will share my screen and get started.
Wonderful. I will leave the stage to you.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so let me just press play. We're talking about ending emotional eating and just eating. Just a little introduction for you. I am Dr. Orlena. Now, I love this quote. And if you don't take anything from this talk, I want you just to come back from here. If you can just walk away thinking, okay, I've learned one thing, I think this really helps us understand why we turn to food for comfort. And here it is. And not even just why we turn to food for comfort, essentially why we do anything that we want to do. And part of our brain might be saying, it's not very logical to do that, is it? And the answer is, no, it's not. And here's why. We're emotional beings who think rather than thinking beings who feel emotions. And what that's really saying is we are led by our emotions. We do things because we feel an emotion. And we'll dive more into what emotions are later on in the talk. So just a quick introduction. My name is Dr. Orlena. I am from the UK, as you may tell by my accent. I trained as a pediatric doctor, and I had the honor and excitement of working in Australia as well. I worked in Brisbane for a little bit in the Mater Children's Hospital, and I absolutely loved it. So if you're in Australia, I know you have an amazing, beautiful country, and it has a very special place in my heart. I have 4 children, including picky eaters. And I mentioned this because it's very difficult, it's very challenging when you have picky eaters. And for me, it was really an intro point into how I ended up working with, well, first of all, children and then adults later on, and how to help them eat healthily and lead a healthy lifestyle. So I have a book called Building Simple Habits to a Healthy Me, which is available on Amazon, but actually I also give it away free. So if anybody wants a free copy of this, an electric copy, I'm happy to. It doesn't show up in the, there you go, you can't really see it. Okay, I also have a podcast as well, Fit and Fabulous at 40 and Beyond. And what I'm really about is easy and fun and routines, habits and systems. The whole point of everything I want to teach you is how to make it easy. I want you to get you to the place where you feel that healthy living is easy. It's easy and fun, and it's just what you do without thinking about it. And all of that healthy living supports your health, your weight loss goals, whatever it is that your goals are. So just a few bits. And this is my book. This is one of my friends who came to see me, and that's her filling out her book and all the worksheets that are in the book. And this is me. This is a little piece of my life. I live in Spain. I love swimming. I swim in the Mediterranean. It's amazing. We don't have any large sharks or anything like that here. And my husband and my 4 kids. This is a really, I think, good picture of my kids. But in short, just a normal mum, a normal person. Okay, so let's start and think, do any of these apply to you? You suppress and control your emotions with food. And feel free to put your hand up or put numbers in the comments. This is the one that applies to me. You're fed up of finding yourself eating food that you don't really want to and don't really need to for reasons that you don't fully understand. Now, you know there's a better way to eat, and also a better way to feel. So not only are you perhaps feeling guilty about eating this food, but the reality is that food is sapping your energy. You're not getting the nutrients, you're not feeling energetic like you want to if you were eating healthy foods and leading a healthy life. It might be that you want to lose weight. And it might just be that actually you just want to change the way you eat. You know you eat, you don't want to lose weight, but you know that actually eating healthily is really going to make you feel better and give you longer life, except that you can't really figure out how to make that change. You might want to change your relationship with food, as Martha was talking about. You might want to just maintain a healthy weight, and you can see that this emotional eating is creeping in. And it might be that in the past, food helped you get through a bad time. But now that bad time has passed and you're still turning to that food and you want to find a better way to feel good. And we're going to cover all of these. Oh, and last one. Oh, yes, this one. You can't face the misery and failure of yet another diet, but you really want a slimmer body, a stronger body, and a happier life. And I think a lot of people fall into this bracket of, oh my goodness, not another diet. Okay, so you want to fix your relationship with food. It may be that you want to lose weight naturally, but even if you don't want to lose weight, get lots of energy, be healthy. And you know what they say? Leading a healthy life buys you 10 years. Now, obviously, that's a broad sweeping statement, but on average, that's what they're saying. Healthy living, people who lead a healthy life on average live 10 years longer. Now, I want it to be easy. Give me a yes for easy. I always say, if it's not easy and fun, it doesn't get done. So today, we are going to get a little bit of clarity on what's happening and why it's not your fault. You have a human body and a human mind. We're going to get you excited to move forwards, and then we're going to think about taking action. So just to find out where you are, you have a great relationship with food. I can eat treats in moderation and find it easy to stick to limits. Yes or no? Now, I know the difference between genuine hunger and a craving. We'll cover that in a minute. I feel calm and relaxed around food. So where I want people to get to is, I talk about doing the cupcake test. And if somebody offers you a food that you like a cupcake, instead of gritting your teeth and, clenching your fists and going, no, I don't want it. I really don't want it. Actually, where I want you to be is, no, do you know what? I'm absolutely fine. I can take it or I leave it. And today I just choose to say no. I'm not in the mood for a cupcake. And I think that is where you want to get to, that being relaxed around food as opposed to tense and using discipline to say no. Okay, another thing. I know how to deal with stress, frustration, overwhelm in a healthy way without turning to food. And another one, I always stop eating when I'm 80% full. Or do you carry on eating until you're full to bursting? Now, here's a question for you. What would your life be like if this wasn't a problem? How is this impacting your life? Now, obviously, I just want you to have a think about this. Now, feel free to write in the comments and tell me a little bit about how this would change your life. If you could change this, what further impact would it have on the rest of your life? Now, this is where many people are. They are aware that they either eat emotionally or have cravings, and we'll tease out the difference between those in a minute. They try to fix it. Life gets busy. You know what I say? Life is always lifing. There's always something. It may be something different. It may be just work and busyness, but it may be somebody's unwell or some big event happens or some trauma happens, but there's always something in our life. Then you get overwhelmed or you forget about whatever it is you're trying to do. And then you give up. And almost a period of time happens before you think, oh my goodness, I was doing this thing and I totally forgot. I got totally derailed and now there's no point in me doing it again. And then you feel demoralized and like a failure. You feel like this is something that you've tried to do and you haven't done it. So therefore, you're not the great person that you thought you are. These are all lies, by the way. I love this GIF. It just sums it up, doesn't it? Chocolate cake? Yes, I'll have the whole chocolate cake. Now, Can you guess what the root problem is? There is a root problem that encompasses all of everything that we've been talking about so far. Oh, okay, sorry, I'm going to skip that. And I seem to be missing a slide. So the root problem is habits. It is all down to habits. It is habits in your actions, so in what you eat. It's habits in how you think about things, and it's habits in your emotions. And that's what we're going to dive into today. So we're going to think about how overeating affects you, what is overeating. Then we'll look a bit about the science behind cravings and emotional eatings. And then we're going to think about how you can change things. And don't worry, I've taken that. It's not sciencey. It's easy and fun to understand. So how does emotional eating affect you personally? I remember one of my clients talking to me, and she said, I had a stressful phone call and I found myself eating halfway through a packet of cookies. So I basically woke up halfway through a packet of cookies going, what am I doing? And when we unpacked this, she realized she'd been on a telephone conversation. It was a stressful telephone conversation. And what happens to her is she is now eating all the cookies. Now, does this matter? Do you know what? I think humans all emotionally eat. It is part of our society to emotionally eat. We eat for birthday parties. We eat for fun. That is all emotional eating. Does that matter? And the answer is, well, it only matters if you say so. If you are finding negative consequences of emotional eating, which normally it's impacting your weight and your health, or it's taking over your brain and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I can't think of anything other than food, then those are the two big consequences I see. But the bottom line is some people emotionally eat. I put my hand up and say, yeah, I emotionally eat. I get bored in the morning, and the morning is when I do my work. And sometimes I get a little bit bored. And so I find myself in the nut cupboard. I love eating nuts. Now, those are a relatively healthy snack, so it's fine. And also, it's part of the amount of food that I eat in 24 hours. It's not like extra food. And I don't have a problem with my weight. So that's all fine. It doesn't matter. What is interesting to think about is, how does it affect you? Does it affect you in a negative way? Is it something that you need to change? And you might say, no, actually, it's perfectly fine. I do emotionally eat, but it's under control. It's not a big deal. So the same question really is, how would your life be different if you didn't? Is it a big thing that is stopping you from doing all the other things, like leading a healthy life and losing weight, or is it an unimportance? And for many people, for many of my clients, they want to lose weight. They totally get healthy eating. I always say to people, you don't have a knowledge gap, you have a doing gap. And the problem is they get healthy eating, they want to eat healthily. It's all great, except this emotional eating. I eat healthily, except when I get stressed, and then I eat chocolate or pretzels or something like that. Now, if you could change that, if they could stop the emotional eating piece, they would just be eating healthily and they would see their weight go down. And that's obviously what happens when you address your emotional eating. And another question that I think is important to think about is, what do you need to get to what I call healthy, amazing you? And healthy, amazing you is you leading your healthy life, feeling amazing, being confident that you're doing all of these amazing things without having to think about it. So why is this important? Now, you're definitely not alone. If we look at obesity levels, the World Health Organization says that obesity levels have nearly tripled since 1975. So I was born in 1975. That's my lifetime. Why is obesity important? Because it is a risk for cardiovascular disease and other things like diabetes and osteoarthritis and some cancers. And obesity is, as they say, largely preventable. Now, this is good news for us because it is something that we can reverse. It is not a great thing because it has a big impact on your health, but actually it is something that we can change. Plus, and I think these things are super important, energy levels, confidence, feeling happiness, loving your life. I feel like I lead a life of luxury, and I lead a life of luxury because I go swimming and cycling and all of these amazing things that I enjoy. I get to do the stuff that I want to do, and I have energy to do the things that I want to do. So the good news is you can change even if you have tried a zillion times before. So I just want to tell you a few inspiring stories, because I know that it can feel really like, yeah, I've tried it so many times. I've tried this, I've tried this, I've tried this. It's just another thing. So this is Cara, and she turned to food for comfort. And she said, oh no, sorry. She said that, she just felt tired and lacking energy. Now, what she did was focused on her emotional eating. She lost 40 pounds and she reversed her glaucoma. But more importantly, food just stopped having a hold over her. So she sort of changed the cupcake test. And I remember talking to her after Halloween, and she has young kids, so Halloween and candy and all of that stuff. And she just said, you know what? It wasn't a big deal. I didn't even notice it. Food stopped having a hold over me. And so now she feels more vibrant, more energetic, enjoying her life. And this is another one, Leah as well, who really just says that she's changed her, not just what she eats, but her whole life. And she feels amazing and fun whilst she's doing it. Okay, and another one as well. Okay, I'm not going to tell you all of these stories. So let's get into what is overeating. So it may be cravings, it may be emotional eating, it may be just having a little bit at each sitting. So essentially, if we step back and think, okay, what is the role of eating? The role of eating is to nourish our body. Our body needs energy, and our body needs other things like nutrients. So it needs micronutrients, vitamins and minerals. It needs macronutrients like protein and fat. We need certain things to nourish our body. And our body needs a certain amount of these things every single day. When we eat more than that, we are eating more than our body actually needs. And that may be for a variety of reasons. So another question is, how is it? Why is it that we have these habits? Why is this happening? Now, that's a complicated question, but in a nutshell, it's because of the way society is structured now. We live in, we have all of these packaged foods easily available to us, plus, other societal things going on. So basically, anytime we eat more than our body needs, we are overeating. Now, let's have a think about cravings. What is the difference between cravings, I love this GIF, must have cupcakes, and emotional eating? So cravings are seeking a particular food, and it's different for different people. So it might be bread, it might be pasta, it might be chocolate, it might be croissants. I always say to my kids, there's no such thing as only hungry for chocolate. And my kids tell me, Mum, I'm hungry. I'm only hungry for chocolate. I'm like, really? Now, cravings, I've never met anybody, we're going to disregard pregnant women who do have strange cravings, but cravings normally are for what I call white refined carbohydrates. So basically sugar or flour. And out of that list of things that I gave you, you can see that they are mostly made of either sugar, sweets and candy, cake, or flour. And basically flour and sugar are the same thing. In our body, they basically get broken down to sugar. So basically it is white refined carbohydrates. Cravings are about sugar. Now, if you are genuinely hungry, what I talk about is the celery test. So if you're really hungry, you will eat anything. And I think if you pick something that is not so desirable, celery, carrot sticks, something like that, and you say to yourself, do you know what? Am I hungry or is this a craving? Would I eat peanut butter on celery? Or do I only want a croissant or that beautiful donut or something like that? If you're genuinely hungry, you will eat the not so desirable food. So there's no such thing as only hungry for chocolate. So what are cravings? Cravings are our bodies seeking glucose. And that is normal. It's normal for our bodies to seek glucose. They are also our bodies seeking dopamine. So dopamine is that reward neurotransmitter in our brains. Every time we go and do anything, and it doesn't have to be food related. It can be, I don't know, doing something that you really enjoy, like running around. It could be, in the olden days, going and picking some berries. Anytime we do something, we get a little reward from dopamine. Now, obviously, in society at the moment, we live in a society where we get big hits of dopamine that we didn't used to get in the olden days. So, for example, being online, watching movies, we get big hits of dopamine. Playing computer games and things like that, internet shopping and things like that. Previously, we didn't get those big surges of dopamine. But anyhow, having dopamine is normal, and we like dopamine because without dopamine, we wouldn't do anything. We'd just sit around doing nothing and starve to death, basically. But the problem with cravings is they're these things on overdrive. It's like a really strong habit, but gone wrong. Now, cravings may also be a sign of high insulin levels or some other hormonal balance. So this is what I think a craving looks like. It is your brain seeking reward, and it's almost like an addiction behavior. And we're not going to talk about sugar addiction, but it's almost like a behavior that you want to get this glucose from outside of your body, that experience of feeling good, but really knowing that it's doing you harm. So part of your brain is going, this is not good for me. And another part of your brain feels helpless to be able to control that. And you just carry on doing it and doing it and doing it. And I've put in here bliss point as well, because one of the things that we see in food marketing is food companies spend literally billions of dollars researching how to get us to eat more. Literally, this is what they do. It's incredible, but they design foods so that you want to eat more and you want to eat more. So you kind of get hooked on it. So the glucose and the dopamine almost take over, and it reduces your self-control around that particular food. So that is the science behind cravings. Let's turn into the science about emotional eating, and the two are linked. So emotional eating, what is emotional eating? It is eating because of some emotion. So that emotion could be boredom, it could be frustration, it could be feelings of lack of worth, it could be anything. Now, and again, this is sort of like society built, tells us time and time again, this Bridget Jones, I'm showing my age, but this, Bridget Jones, oh my goodness, life is bad, I'm going to turn to ice cream for comfort. It is what is considered normal in the media. So here's a really interesting question, and I wonder if you've ever had a time to think about this. What are emotions exactly? And I have to confess, when I was at medical school, we didn't talk much about emotions, which I find really interesting. I think it did come up a little bit, but have a think about emotions. Emotions are things that our bodies feel. Now, emotions are different for each of us. So when we feel happiness, everybody feels happiness in a different way. And they are used for interpreting the world around us. So think of our brain and think about all the amazing things all the input that we have coming into our brain. So much information in our brain. Now, our brain is like an amazing computer that processes all of this information amazingly quickly. And if it had to slow down and, process this in a much more slow way, oh my goodness, things would be very different. So take, for example, you're walking out in the woods and you see a long, thin thing on the ground. Now, that long, thin thing could be a stick or it could be a snake. But you need time to process this to figure out if it's a snake or a stick. So your emotions come in and they give you a little bit of information. Now, if you see that stick and you feel fear, you're going to be like, oh my goodness, it's a snake, and you're going to run away. Or if you think, oh, it's just a stick, you're just going to walk past it. But where do you get that information from? Well, something triggers you, something that you look at that stick triggers you to think, oh my goodness, it might be that it flickers a little bit. And that flickering makes you think, okay, it's something alive. I'm going to feel fear and I'm going to run away. But emotions help us to really understand the world around us in a much more complex way than just, okay, flat, pointy thing that's in the wood. What does this flat, pointy thing mean? So, interestingly, emotions are socially constructed, and I find this really, really interesting. There are different cultures, suspect they don't exist very much anymore, but that have different emotions. For example, in some tribes, anger does not exist. And I find this amazing. I'm like, really? How can anger not exist? Like, it's so part of our society that we can't really imagine life without anger. But in some societies, it doesn't exist. As I say, I suspect these are small tribes that now have disappeared. Now, the thing about emotions is they only last a really short time. They only last 90 seconds. Now, before you tell me, wait, I can give you billions of examples of when I have felt emotions for a longer period of time. Yes, you can, because you're triggering that emotion again and again and again and again. So it's not the same emotion. It's like I'm constantly having the same thought or experience that is triggering that emotion time and time again. Now, thoughts are very closely linked to what we are thinking. Now, some people say thoughts come first, and some people say emotions come first. And I think in different times, sometimes we can just feel an emotion and there is no thought behind it, but it impacts our thoughts. And I'll show you how that works in a minute. Sometimes people say, no, it's exactly what you're thinking, which comes to emotions. But basically, thoughts and emotions happen very closely together, and they powerfully influence our behavior. So normally the way we think about it, just to break it down, is thoughts lead to emotions, which lead to actions. So when you have an emotion, there are 3 different things that you can do with an emotion. You can act on that emotion. I am cross with my children, so I'm going to shout and scream at them. Or my child is cross, like say my child is young, they're cross, they're going to shout, they're going to scream, they're going to throw their toys out of the cot. They are acting from that place of emotion. Now, you can distract yourself. You can distract yourself intentionally or not intentionally. And when you are emotionally eating, you are distracting yourself unintentionally. So you feel a negative emotion, stress. I don't like this emotion. But instead of actually being, going through that in your brain, you just develop this habit, which is stress, eat. I'm now enjoying thinking about what I'm eating. I'm enjoying this pleasant experience of eating. And that eating is going to give you a positive emotion. Now, you can also distract yourself intentionally. So, for example, you realize that you're feeling a little bit down. You put on some music, it's going to lift you up. Or you go for a swim, in my case, or go and do some exercise. So I see that I've got a negative emotion and I do something intentional to change that emotion. Now, the other thing that you can do is just sit with that emotion. 90 seconds, 2 minutes is all it takes. The issue with this is you need to stop the thinking about it. So say, for example, I am cross with my son because, I don't know, he's done something, he's broken something, and I'm cross with him. And I feel this surge of anger or frustration. And then I let it go. And then I think, oh, I'm annoyed with him again. Then I feel it all over again. And like I keep feeling it and I keep feeling it. So to be able to sit with an emotion, you have to detach yourself from the thought that is triggering that emotion. So the root of all of these issues, we're coming back to it again, is habits. It's all down to habits. So let's just have a little think about habits. What are habits and why are they so important in this story? Now, habits are very efficient. Again, think about your brain as a computer. And we have what I call our thinking brain is this bit here. And our thinking brain loves to think, about problems and things like this and, ideas. And we have our subconscious brain, which does so much stuff, it's like, doing all the processing in our body that we have zero control about it. But it also has habits. And your habit is like a program that goes rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. For example, brushing your teeth. You brush your teeth every single day, perhaps 2 or 3 times a day. And you probably don't think about brushing your teeth. You probably just do it and that's it. Imagine if you didn't have a habit about brushing your teeth. You would have to wake up and set a reminder and go, okay, remember to brush your teeth. And then you'd probably have to figure out how to brush your teeth because you just don't do it automatically. So you'd be thinking, okay, toothbrush, toothpaste. Okay, and like I have to remind myself to do this. So you can see that habits are amazing. They are things that we do on autopilot out of habit. Now, the thing about habits is that they are a double-edged sword. At some stage, we've got a reward from doing that. But it doesn't matter. We've got a dopamine hit from doing it. But in terms of our health and wellness, it may be a healthy habit, like going for a walk, or it may be a less healthy habit, like turning to food for comfort. Now, your brain does not care whether it is a healthy habit or a not healthy habit. It just cares that it's like, I'm just running this program. This is all I'm doing, running this program. My habit is turning to food for comfort. I feel stressed. This is what I do. I feel stressed. This is what I do. And you need to rewrite that habit, essentially. So how do we rewrite habits is the big question. And the short answer to this question is you just repeat the new habit about a zillion times until it's a new habit. The problem is what I call the rickety bridge. And from where you are now to having new habits, there's this rickety bridge. And what happens on that rickety bridge is you start building up the new habit, and then life happens, ping, like an elastic band, you get sent back to the old habits. An acorn habit. It's like building up an acorn habit. You get sent back to what are your oak tree habits, your big oak tree habits. But you need to create bigger, stronger habits that are things, your habits are the things that you do when life is stressful. When life is busy, whatever you're doing, those are your true habits. And you're not thinking about them. Now, a lot of people say it's about discipline. It's not about discipline. To begin with, what you want to do is think about how you can make it easy for yourself to do this habit. But when it's actually a habit, you will just do it because it's a habit. So to begin with, you want to think about how can I set my life up to make it easy for myself? Okay, let's just change track a little bit and go into thinking about this thoughts, emotions, and actions and how those play into this story. And I also want to talk about mirror neurons briefly and self-awareness. So how do thoughts and emotions work? So this is what I call the negative plug hole. And we have thoughts that lead to emotions that lead to actions. And all of this is in our habit. We have habits in how we think about things. We have habits in our emotions. We have habits in our actions. And this is keep playing and keep playing and keep going around. So here's an example. So this is an example of my two children, or two of my children. I have four of them. And so one of them makes a comment to the other one. And then the other one thinks my brother is being mean to me. Now, the comment might have been, like basically not a mean comment, but it's interpreted as my brother is being mean to me because I'm used to thinking that my brother is being mean. So I'm always going to, that's like how I'm going to think about things. So then I feel angry. And then he stamps his foot. Oh, and then, sorry, I'm just going back. Once you stamp your foot, then you go back and have another thought about things as well. So step one for you is to get this self-awareness and think about what is your underlying emotion that is happening such that you are turning to food for comfort. What is your thought loop that you are going around? Now, on a side note, if anybody wants to go through with this with me, I actually am inviting people onto my podcast at the moment to actually talk about your journey and what's going on and, basically get some coaching live on my podcast. So if you're interested in doing that, then just message me and I will show you how to apply up for that. So thoughts, emotions, something like this. So many things to do. Mustn't eat cake. You feel stressed because you've got so much to do. Eat the cake. Your action is to eat the cake. And then you have another thought. So it keeps going round. You're now judging yourself. I'm so weak-willed. Why am I so useless? And now you keep going round this loop. You end up with low self-esteem, guilt, more stress. You eat more cake. You can see how it's like this negative plug hole. Just another interlude for you. So here are some common underlying emotions. Fear of life without the desired food, fear of hunger, stress is another big one, work, relationships, money, all of the things. Self-worth is another one. So feeling cared for, feeling valued, feeling loved. So these sometimes are driving. And the question I'm asking you is, what is it for you? So in a nutshell, what you want to be able to do is identify the negative trigger that is leading you to turn to food for comfort, identify the positive emotion that you're getting from food and that you want more of in your life. Now, you want to decrease that trigger in your life. The idea isn't, okay, feel the negative emotion. The idea, so say, for example, you're feeling stressed. How do you reduce stress in your life generally? At some stage, you're going to get some stress. You can't get rid of it all the time. But say you're being triggered 5 times a day. If you can reduce that to 1 time a day, you're in a much better place. But you do also need the tools to avoid eating when you do feel that negative emotion. So how do we break this cycle? There are basically 2 keys. Rebooting how you eat and also rebooting how you respond to emotions. So let's go into the first one first. What is a reboot? Why do you need to reboot this? So the thing about rebooting this is if you just work on the emotional piece and you're still eating a lot of those high sugary foods, say, for example, you get cravings or you turn to chocolate for comfort, and then you work on that, you're just going to shift to something else. And you say, okay, I'm going to not eat chocolate and I'm going to work on my emotions. You're going to switch, your craving's going to turn to something else. So you're going to start craving, I don't know, cookies or biscuits or something like that. And as you eat those foods, it's almost like poking yourself in the face all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like, here, don't eat this, here, don't eat this, or here, we're trying not to eat this. So actually what happens when you have a reboot, when you change how you eat and you eat healthy foods, your desire for those sugared foods gets much, much less. And this is something that all my clients tell me, you know, like I thought it would be awful. Actually, it's surprisingly easy. And when I don't eat sugar so much, I just don't want it so much. So what is a reboot? Healthy eating. And in a nutshell, yes to fruits, vegetables, lentils, legumes, whole grains, healthy fats, healthy proteins, nuts and seeds. Less white refined carbohydrates, which spike your glucose levels, and basically are packaged foods. So it retrains your taste buds. All of those packaged foods are contributing to craving, and your body gets used to that quick release glucose. So when you're hungry, your body kind of thinks, oh, I need to get some quick release glucose. Whereas actually, when you're hungry, your body has enough energy stored in it and is perfectly capable of getting its own glucose. Actually, one of my clients who has previously had high blood sugars, she's recently got a continuous glucose monitor, you know, one that measures all of your glucose levels all the time. And she's been wearing it really just as an exercise to see what happens to her blood sugar levels. And she said, it's really interesting that when I'm hungry, my blood sugar levels aren't necessarily low, or my blood sugar levels aren't low, so that two are not correlated. So that fear I have that, oh my goodness, my blood sugar levels are going to go low, I need to eat something, is not true. And conversely, when her blood sugar level does go low, her body just fixes it for her, and she doesn't have to do anything, and she doesn't actually even notice. So we don't need to control our own glucose levels. It's something that we just allow our body to do, and it will do it normally. But we get used to this idea of, oh my goodness, I'm hungry, I have to eat quickly, I have to have that energy now. And the answer is you don't. It's just another habit. So for example, I swim, I cycle, I swim for an hour without eating anything. How do I do that? Is it because I'm Superwoman? No, it's not. It's because I just know I'm used to the fact that my body can go and do all of this exercise. It can break down the energy that it needs, and then I eat breakfast later on. So what I recommend people to do is a 2-week reboot, a 2-week healthy eating reboot. Now, I said the second key was rebooting your emotional response. Identify the negative emotion and ideally work out how you are going to reduce that. And that is, there's different ways of doing that. Identify the positive emotion. Learn how to deal with that negative emotion without turning to food for comfort. But the first step is really identifying it, because it happens so quickly that most people don't really realize. When I talk about my client who had the telephone conversation, she didn't, until we unpacked it, she felt stressed, she turned to cookies. It wasn't until we talked about it and unpacked it, she's like, yes, I can see I felt stress. But at the time, you don't acknowledge feeling that stress. You're just like, quick, you've just got this desire for cookies. And there's no, oh yeah, I'm feeling stressed. I'm going to take a few breaths. I'm going to calm myself down. I'm going to allow this emotion just to play out and see, do I really want to eat the cookies? Or do I just actually need to deal with whatever it is that the bad news that I've had? So I feel like we have covered quite a lot. It's been quite in depth. Let's just take a big deep breath and relax. Now, I have made it easy for you. Now, let me see. Okay, so I think one of the things about this journey is life keeps on lifing, and old habits slip up and you get demoralized and you give up. And really, this is the big problem. The getting demoralized and giving up is really the big problem. If you could just say, okay, do you know what? Actually, I know I'm going to fall over 10 times. I'm going to pick myself up and keep going. This is part of the journey. Life is going to keep happening. And that is basically what happens. Life happens, I turn to food for comfort. Well, I'm going to learn how to stop doing that, but life is going to carry on lifing. And sometimes I'm going to get it right, and sometimes I'm not going to get it right. And that's fine. Over a period of time, I'm going to get to where I want to get to. So the question is, why do most people struggle with this? Why don't people make the changes they want to change? And the answer is they lack expertise and objectivity to know exactly what to do. And their motivation may slip. They don't have accountability to keep them going. So going back to Cara, one of the things she says is, I know that having the accountability to keep going keeps me going. And I wouldn't have got these amazing results if I hadn't kept going. If I'd given up, I wouldn't be here. I know it's not rocket science, is it? So you can get help, support, motivation, and accountability. And your new life can be easy with support and help. So your next steps, and you have 3 options here. You can make changes by yourself, but the reality is that is quite difficult to do because life is happening. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my reboot and how you can sign up to my reboot. And I've created a special page for you wonderful people in Australia. Now, the third thing you can do is get support. So I'm just going to walk you through what support I offer and what I recommend the next steps to be. So this is my reboot, and it walks you through a 2-week healthy eating reboot. And you can sign up here. Here's the link, and I've made it for you in Australian dollars. And this walks you through 2 weeks of rebooting your healthy eating. And that is an amazing first step to take with emotional eating. Now, when you sign up to do this, it offers you the option to also upgrade and get my program, which is on emotional eating. And the emotional eating piece really goes through all of everything that we've talked about, but with worksheets and things like that. And it also includes a session with me. Either of them do, both of them do. So if you signed up for both, you would get 2 sessions. And together, that package is literally everything that you need. Now, this is a do-it-yourself package. So you do get a little bit of chatting with me, but it's not ongoing support with me. I do have a group program, and I have an Australian cohort, which is on Tuesday evening. And if you join this program, then it offers you at the end the option to upgrade to that program. Now, obviously, you don't have to do that, but you can do it if you want to. So the upsells are the end eating emotional program and the group program. Now, you might be thinking, okay, I'm interested in finding out about the group program, but I don't know enough about it, so I don't want to just buy it now. In which case, you're more than welcome to book a call with me. And the easiest way to do that is just to message me, and I will tell you how to book a call with me. Now, I also have a free Facebook group as well, so you're welcome to come and join the free Facebook group. So, any questions? Oh, I'm just gonna recap as well. So emotional eating happens because you have a human brain and a human body. And the human brain is basically stuck on this habit of negative emotion, turn to food for comfort. Plus you have your physiological input, which is your body going, I need sugar, I want sugar, I want sugar. And it is basically a habit that you need to change so that it's easy for you to eat healthily so that you can achieve your health and weight loss goals, which may be weight loss or it may be just getting healthy. But this is one of the keys to really getting to health, what I call healthy, amazing you. And there are 2 key components to making changes: healthy eating in general and understanding your emotions and figuring out how you can feel the negative emotion, ideally not trigger the negative emotion so much, but how you can have that negative emotion and have different tools to not turn to food for comfort. So in a nutshell, that is everything that you need to know. Okay, fabulous. I am going to stop sharing my screen and see if Martha is there. Martha, are you here?
How are you? It was a great presentation.
Thank you very much.
So if anyone have any questions at all, feel free to put it down into the comments in the post that is upcoming. I will put Orlena's contact into the comments as well as our show notes, so you'll be able to reach out to her. Is there any last advice that you can give to us?
No, only you can make these changes. And I know that when people are standing there and thinking, I've done this so many times, I'm broken. I promise you, you're not broken. You can make changes. I'm not promising you there won't be any obstacles. There may be obstacles, but you can get through those obstacles. I always say to my clients, there's no obstacle so big that we can't deal with it together. And I think, okay, you may not have me there, but there aren't any obstacles so big. So if people do have questions on the Facebook thing, I will pop in and I'll answer those questions.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today. It was a wonderful presentation. For all our audience and listeners, thank you for your time. And we look forward to seeing you again next week on another episode of Knowledge is Power.